Hello, everybody. We have a special show today as INSiiGHTS presents the Claflin Athletic Show, sponsored by Tony T, Chrysler, Dodge, Ram, Jeep of Orangeburg, South Carolina. With us today, we're able to have the man that you hear about at the beginning and close of every show. His name is Tony Thomas, but nationwide, he's known as Tony T.
Hey, thank you for having me. Thank you for having me, Vicky. Thank you. Hello to everybody out there.
Oh man, thank you. We enjoy having you, and it's just an honor to have somebody as accomplished as you are, and to be able to do the things that you do within the community and never once forgetting where you come from. I just think that's an admirable trait there, Tony.
Yeah, man. It comes pretty easy. I come from humble beginnings. I grew up in Northeast Texas, small town called Texarkana, Texas. And, I grew up with two grandparents, both parents and grandparents, and a huge, huge family. So, and it was a rural area. So you definitely grow up with humble beginnings, but, you don't forget when you have that work ethic instilled in you for so long.
That's admirable what you're saying, but we don't always see people who do that. And I appreciate your humbleness, but a lot of times people get successful and they figure everybody else needs to do it on their own and pull themselves up by their bootstraps, and they don't look back or reach back to try to help the next
one. Well, it's funny you say that because, it took a lot of people and a lot of hands and a lot of trust and spirits to get me to this position and where I'm at today. It didn't come by self. First and foremost, I like to thank God Almighty for being able to, stand by me and help me get through those tough times and putting the right people in my life and, the right people that slow me down, the right ones to speed me up, and the right ones to create that mold, that play into that mold. I definitely didn't come without my own, my own trials and tribulations. And, with that comes, it takes people to, have the patience with you, to take people to give you those opportunities and help you seize those moments. And, like I said, I thank God for being able to put those out there in front of me. And I think for the obstacles also, I thank God for the obstacles because, it's just the journey is what makes you. The destination is the destination, but the journey is what makes you.
You said something there when you said you got people in your life to speed you up and people in your life to slow you down. Yeah. Elaborate a little bit more on that, because that's a deep comment there.
Well, I think we're all impatient to a certain point in life. Lord knows I didn't grow up with any kind of, any real patience. It was always go mode for me. And, sometimes you want to speed up. You got to have those people to slow you down. And sometimes we think those people slowing us down are in our way, but sometimes they're slowing you down because they see something inside in front of you that you need to slow down to be able to absorb it all, right? I think that if I would have I had an opportunity to become a dealer by the time I was 34, 35 at the time, pretty young. And, somebody who comes from no generational wealth, that's real early on. And when I did that, the opportunity kind of was in front, it kind of fell apart, and I was pushing harder and harder and harder to get it to go across the line. And, I had somebody that was an advisor to me, and it to a sense that was like, hey man, you know what, this is not your deal. It's not your time, and I'm glad that I didn't, because that deal would have been a bad deal overall, because the factory ended up failing as a factory is overall. But, and I wasn't, I think I thought in my mind that I was prepared, but knowing that I'm prepared now, I was not even 10% prepared at that moment, so it wasn't that time. I needed to go through the things that I needed to go through, the trials, the tribulations, the failures, the learning processes. I need to go through all of that to build that character for what made me today, honestly. And that's, I know for sure when I look back on those times that I needed them, right? I needed that somebody to slow me down then in order to say, hey man, you got to look at this a little bit different. This is not your time. Don't get disappointed. You just got to keep preparing like that next moment is coming tomorrow. And I took that, I took that on the chin, and, that's what I did. I just put my head down and kept grinding. And there's a few other, shortcomings in between that point. But, that's what made me, and but that also gives me the opportunity to know where I'm at now, to see some of the younger professionals that are out there now, that are trying to aspire to get where they want to get in life, whether it be in business or a career move, to be able to have those conversations and have it with validity of knowing that, man, I've lived it.
I think that is really key what you said. And could you tell us a little bit about maybe a couple of people that were really influential in terms of people whose words meant a lot to you? You know, a lot of times it's a couple people that really kind of stand out that you would like to even say thank you to what they did, and for you to be able to listen, because you have to be in the right frame of mind to listen when those
Yeah.
words come to you.
Oh yeah, definitely, man. And that, I think I take pieces and nuggets from different people throughout life. Whether it be my dad, my mom, grandparents, just uncles. I think I took some of them, but I really took some things from my freshman year in college. Had a coach that who named Randy Pippen would always say, you choose your fate by the choices you make, right? And he would always use these terms of how do you respond to adversity. It ain't about what happens; it's how you respond to what happens, right? So, and there was a lot of moments, throughout that time in life where you run up against them, and as a young man, especially a young African American man, you know, you don't think of chances a lot of times, right? We think we get that one shot, and that's that one shot is all we get. You gotta, and it's a sense that I think we got to have that mentality. But that one, just because you missed that one shot, don't mean you can't keep shooting, right? And I think a lot of those lessons that I learned in life from that, or either just having my dad and my dad instilling that work ethic in me of, hey, you gotta get your tail out the bed. Ain't no laying around here. We we lived off the land. We bought meat, but everything else was grew in the garden. We grew our own garden, so you had to get up and go to work. Then I think from having that work ethic in me, it stayed with me. I think from what those coaches said, I think some of my mentors in the car business, I think I was able to see, for me, coming up in the car business in Houston, Texas, I was able to see some things that I have never saw in my life. I never saw African American men, people of my color, own things. I didn't know we could own dealerships. I thought we could work. I didn't know we could actually own. So I think a lot of times when I got a chance to see that early on, for me, it inspired me. That I knew it was capable to be out there. I think once I got into it, my walk into the car business was, one out of a must. I had my first kid when I was 16 years old. I got custody of him by the time I was probably like 22. So at that point in time, I was single. So for me, it was, I had to make it work. So I went to the dealership to actually sell two of my personal vehicles to try to get cash in hand, to try to make a living for us, and and fight for my custody of my kid. And when I used all my cash up, I sold those cars in order to do so. And a guy at the dealership asked me at that point in time, he says, "Man, I know you're trying to get back to the league. So, why don't we work around your schedule, and you could come here and sell cars. A lot of guys, a lot of athletes, a lot of people do it. Yeah." I said, "Well, I'll think about it," and thought about it, and honestly didn't have a lot of other choices at the time other than I could think about. And I went ahead and tried it and got in it, and saw a value in my trying to raise my kid. And at that point in time, decided I'm gonna try this out and make it work. Now I just got to figure out the rest. And that's what I ended up doing. And I think God shows us sometimes what we think we're going to do is not what we're going to do, right? I think He creates us for a lot of purposes. Some of the purpose we think we're created for, He sees it in a different light. And I thank Him for it every day that He gave me that light to be able to see.
Oh man, there's so many layers to what you said, and let me go back a little bit to your sports involvement. You had the words and that you carried with you from one of your coaches, and I know, being a former athlete, that athletes tend to be competitive, and we don't really take no for an answer, and we really kind of become more dedicated if it doesn't work for you. Tell us a little bit about the athletic influence and what sport you played, how did you do in it? Tell us about that and the discipline that you took from playing sports that you attribute to what you're doing now.
Sports is everything to me. It made me. I mean, 100% hands down, sports made me. I started competing at an early age. I think the first sport I ever played was soccer, and I played it in the first grade. So I competed from the time I was in the first grade up until 24, 25 years old. In competition. And I think from going from soccer to baseball to football to track to basketball to baseball. I stayed involved in athletics my entire life, and in some form of sports, it was like going from one season to the next, keeping competitive. And you're right. Um, for me, I think I took business. I attacked business the same way I would sports. Which is prepare, train, and compete. And then that's the way I kind of took it on. And I think playing, and I started winning early on. I think for me, I tell a lot of my guys this. I think winning is super contagious and it builds some things. You can learn in losses for 100%. You sure can, because I've been on that end of it too. But I think I won at an early age. Like I said, I wanted soccer at an early age. Playing, we won city championships, league championships. I get to junior high. I go on an undefeated team that wins the district, and go from there. And I get to high school, and I went to a high school where my high school team hadn't went to the playoffs since 1974, and this is 1992, 93. And we get in there and we get two classes together and we turn it around and we get to the playoffs and we make a run. We win the district. And so, it was just like win and win and win. And then I go from there I get to junior college, which Trinity Valley, which I think, 100% molded me. Because I played on a team with 8 guys who went to the league, and we just had a great team. I mean, it's a phenomenal team, probably the best team I ever played on is a group of athletes of people from all around the country. Man, we would have guys from Texas, Florida. We had these guys in from all over the country, man. And I played on this team, and I went in as a freshman, and I was one of only 5 freshmen that were able to play. Everybody else got redshirted. And two of those guys who didn't get redshirted was a punter and a kicker. So there was only 3 skilled athletes that we got a chance to not be redshirted and play and contribute. And we won the national championship. We went 12-0. And I think, for me, all of those different personalities, and they all had the one common trait of they will go it all in to win, right? I mean, it was just like, we're going to win at all costs. And during that season, we did face some adversity along the way. It was being from East Texas. I saw a lot of things in my life, when it comes to race, and going to Trinity Valley, where I can remember we were right in the middle of the season, and we would have a Klan rally that would march right between the middle of the dorms at the school. And it was something different for us to see at that time, especially for me. That was my first time ever, seeing it at that level. And I think from an athletic standpoint and a school standpoint, it brought a lot of us together. And, from the side of the staff, from the players. And, I think we rallied together, and I think that gave us a rally run for us. And, I think growing up in that kind of environment, seeing those things and winning and overcoming adversity. And when you learn to win, like I said, man, when you start overcoming adversity and you realize that, it's a must and it only makes you stronger, I think then you don't look at it as a setback. It's more of, okay, what's in front of you is worth fighting even harder, right? Because without, you don't get to those great heights without some kind of adversity and some roadblocks in front of you. If it was as easy to walk through, then everybody would be having this conversation we're having right now. And that's not the case, So I had my choice to either view it one way or the other, and I chose to look at it in a positive manner and keep fighting, even through my own adversity. And for me, I know I was fighting for something a little bit tougher. Like again, I said I had a kid at 16. My father raised me and instilled a lot in me, and I wasn't going to be, I knew what I had to do for my own child. So for me, it was always push, 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 and athletics gave me that. Even to get my shot in the league and having my opportunities. It was I don't take it for granted. I don't take it for granted by no means at all. Met a lot of great people along the way. A lot of those guys, we still great friends. Still talk to tons of them and do business with a lot of these guys.
Wow, that's excellent insight. You made another comment that you should have put a copyright on, and that's the prepare, train, and compete. And having worked in development at Florida A&M University, we found out that there were a number of corporations that actually sought out athletes to come to work for them because of some of the same things that you just said, and the fact that they understand working together cohesively as one unit when they come into a work environment. They understand that it takes everybody. Explain for us. I'm sure that those are some of the attributes that you look for when you bring employees into your company.
Yeah, 100%. I think, a lot of my success and a lot of, I kind of came up in the business pretty quick when it comes to rising to the higher positions. Uh, Big as a city as Houston is, and many dealerships there are, and being probably the best car market in America, it still have its challenges with having, you know, um, African American and people of color and minorities in general, to be able to get to the top levels, right? We're all able to, get into the business at the entry levels and do some of the things, but actually get to the top as like the general managers and lead, and those things are still tough. And so with that, I think I kind of shot up at an early age through the ranks of that, and I had some people to give me some opportunities. Um, and I think what I know now that I think from having those conversations that I have with these guys nowadays, the ones who actually gave me some of the opportunities that, and a lot of these guys I kind of surpassed, which is great to have the conversation with them now, is that, what made, I know I was good, but what made you, give me the opportunity to compare it to others? Because at this point in time, I'm 27, 28 years old, leading grown men who are in their 40s and 50s, and, and that was, so it was a little bit different. And, I think some of the same characteristics came back to what I think that what I think in my today's organization, what I use is which I know how to build a team. I mean, for me, it was all about team. It was just team, right? And for me, I understood that I can't do it alone. Just from coming from my background, just coming from these teams I played on that was winning, no matter how good I was, it took everybody on that team. So everybody, and how do you get people in that part? And maybe they're in the wrong position. You just can't kick them off the team or fire them because they're not good. Maybe they're not good at what they're doing now. Maybe you need to move them over here to the left, and maybe they'll be great. Or how do you give them that support that it takes to get there, right? And I think that kind of led to a lot of my success was, I became this guy who was a fix-it guy. If the store is broken and it's having issues, this is I became the guy that's known to come in and, hype them up, get them turned around and get them going the right direction. And that came from just knowing how to build a team, and I had a team of people around me that, I invested in them, and, they invested in me, and, we made it easy to go into these deals and, start turning them around, figure out what was, and a lot of times what I noticed in going to these deals, Mickey, was, hell, a lot of times it was culture. The culture was just broken. I mean, it was from top down, not bottom up. It was top down that where these coaches were broken a lot of times. How did they treat their people? What did they, how much development did they look at putting in these people? What kind of what kind of environment was it when they came to work? Was it hostile? Was it and don't get me wrong, I do believe every work environment needs to be super competitive, by no means at all. I don't think that needs to be, everybody gets to sit on their lawns, but how is that environment within those organizations? And I think what I've learned, the quickest turnaround was going into getting the culture in. And some of those cultures involved eliminating some of your top performers, right? And, which is eliminating superstars. I mean, you could be a superstar, but if you're not a superstar within the confines of the team, then, then we got to, like Mike Singletary, I'd rather play with 10. I'd rather play with the 10 effect, and get down, and it needs to get done. So I think that the answer to your question, building teams, investing in people, and getting them to follow that one process, that one dream, right? Because as long as we got a process in place and everybody's involved, if there's a breakdown, we can figure out what a breakdown is. But when everybody's running their own play, you never get it together.
Wow, truer words have not been spoken anywhere. I appreciate you saying that. I want you to delve just a little bit more into what it was like being a minority dealer, and it's not a lot of us in America in the position that you're in. It kind of tell us a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, coming through the walks of in the car business and growing up in it, and me deciding at the time that this is what I want to do, right? I sold cars, I went into finance, I went into sales management and GSM. So I was working my way through this, And I saw guys making a great living. And I think not to skip forward, but I think the amount of opportunities and the amount of wealth that you can provide for your families in this industry as a whole, and it's a huge industry, right? It ain't just selling cars. There's a lot to go with it. But I think me getting into it and decided I wanted to go forward was, how do I get there? Because you just don't know. There's no pathway to say, hey, I want to be a dealer. Go to dealer school and you become a dealer. That's not how it works. There's a lot of emotions to go with it. And, it from growing up, I never saw people who looked like me did. But then when I finally did, it was like I actually reached out to some of these guys. I reached out to the Dale Earleys of the world and the James Davises of the world, the Robert Turners of the world. These are some of the dealers I just know in general that I came in contact with, or the Carl Burnett's. These are some of the people I knew that I came in contact with. And at that time, I would reach out, and honestly, when I'm reaching out this time, it's tough. I mean, I'm a kid that's kind of in sales management. I'm a far ways cry from becoming a dealer, but having these conversations and, Dale Early in particular kind of took the time to have conversations with me about what that looks like. And, along the way, I wasn't even working for him at the time. And along the way, I ended up going to work for him and eventually going to work for James Davis, which is kind of like, I would probably say my tree of growing up in the car business would have been those two guys who were both African American. And Dale had owned his store since 1988. I think James had got his. Then James used to work for Dale in his store, and then James eventually got his store in I think 2000. And I came along in that tree, worked for Dale, then went to work in the James store, and eventually became a partner in the Hyundai store with those guys, and eventually going from there to start my own automotive group. So I guess my branch for me is a little different than I think some of the guys who probably got to the table. I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, but through my branch, what I did learn through my branch of growing up and working in those deals for African American dealers was I did have a first hand to know their struggles and the struggles that I would face moving forward. Because we had a lot of candid conversations about what that looked like. We had a lot of candid conversations about their struggles in the 80s to the 90s to the 2000s and the obstacles that they faced. So, me getting prepared, I had that, I guess that little bit of a leverage knowing that. And I think it gave me a little bit of an edge to kind of know what it was like. It prepared me in a way of, I knew it was not going to be easy. I know I was going to face a bunch of obstacles and get through it. But as African-American dealers, I think a lot of times what we face, even when you got the best of knowledge and you know how to operate these stores and these dealerships, a lot of things we face is that we don't have the financial backing, or we don't have the financial wealth to walk into these deals. These deals, they cost a lot of money to get these deals going and get invited to those tables and get to those tables. And the one thing we don't have when you don't come from generational wealth is that I didn't come from. My dad and my mom worked, but it was far cry from ever getting to that kind of financial wealth for sure. So I think that's the biggest challenge we face as African American dealers in general is the financial end. The second part is, having those opportunities to get that knowledge, right? To be able to go to dealer school or be able to learn not only be able to learn it, because you got to take this and learn it, but you got to be able to apply it, right? And the only way you're going to get a chance to learn and apply it is inside of the actual stores. And again, if as a whole of America, those African American men or women that those top echelon, that percentage got to be probably less than one as being general managers probably in the country, I would imagine. And don't take that data, but I know it's low. I know out of 18,000 dealerships in America, it's the last count I saw was 266 of minority owned dealers, and that minority owned doesn't mean that you're African American. That's just minorities in general. So that number is low, and so we got a lot of work to do. And for me, I'm trying to do my part as well as others. I'm a part of NAMAD. I'm part of NAMAD organization, which is the National Association of Minority Dealers. And that we do our part there, which is where people try to get engaged and try to figure out what those issues are and how can we help fix those issues. As for as myself, I take the time to try to mentor younger dealers and younger up and coming dealers because I know what it's like to be needing that information, not have a fountain to go to, and it's tough, because we don't have that fountain to go to sometimes to be able to bounce that information off of. So for me, I've been able to be a part of a great group of dealers that are up and coming, and some of the previous dealers who we have these conversations, and I think we're going to get it going in the right directions. I think the eyeball is on it right now, and we got to seize that moment while the eyeball is on it because it won't be there forever.